So what makes a productive meeting? Because a lot of people, like we mentioned, they dread meetings. They might dread team meetings, or they don't have an outgoing personality. They'd rather just be at their desk working, and all of a sudden they have this disruption in their day. So how do we make sure that people walk away going, I'm glad we did that. That was worth my time.
Yeah, most meetings are terrible. Most meetings are boring, and people only go and show up to them because they're expected to. They don't actually want to be there. And that happens for a lot of different reasons. That happens because, going back to what I said earlier, the purpose isn't defined. Hey, we don't actually know why I need to give up my time to attend this meeting. So when the purpose is defined, and assuming the purpose is valid, like, hey guys, we're going to rally around this problem. And hey, George, we got this problem in our marketing area, XYZ. We're going to get together. We're going to brainstorm opportunities to really go solve that problem. That's the purpose of this meeting. And we're going to not leave this meeting until we get some good things on the whiteboard, or we may have to schedule another meeting, whatever that may be. So getting really clear on the purpose really helps you set yourself up for success. Gosh, I was actually with a friend last night. We were having dinner. So he was telling me that their whole company it's a big company here in Nashville. Since COVID, they all work remote. Now they're supposed to be in the office a little bit, but pretty much no one shows up. So they just do virtual, which is terrible. He's talking about how the culture, he just never gets to see anyone and all that. That's a whole other subject. But they have these forced cultural team building Zoom meetings, where they had one like the other night where there was like a cooking show that one of their VPs was showing everyone how to make one of their favorite recipes, and they were all obligated to sit and watch this thing. And according to my friend, no one wanted to be there, and very few people actually did attend, and it was awkward for everyone.
Ouch.
Even though the leader had good intentions. Man, it's just not. If it's not a good use of time and it's not clear and people actually aren't excited to do it, maybe don't do it, right? Just don't do the meeting at all.
But there was an attempt. I mean, I get the heart behind it. They're going, hey, this is a one way we can build culture because we are remote. We're going to try to do something fun. And
Sure.
I've seen, some friends, they have virtual happy hours, and things like that. But again, there's a lot of power. We've talked about this on the podcast about doing things in person.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd much rather have a drink with you in person than in front of a screen at home.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
That's just drinking alone.
Yeah, like the other day, Entree, we had a dip off, meaning like a bunch of people on our team signed up to make different sorts of dips, like buffalo chicken dip or salsa or whatever, And we had made it a big contest. We made it a big deal. Everyone is excited about that because everyone loves food and they're going to show up. And it was during work hours. It was around lunchtime. And so that's an idea that actually people want to show up to. And that's a team building type thing. And so if you're going to do team building, make it something people actually want to show up to.
Yes. Ask yourself, would I want to show up to this?
That's right.
If I wasn't the leader.
So going back to, you asked about the purpose, or you asked about what makes a meeting productive. So purpose, the second thing I'll say is you need to stay on track. So when you start veering off and you start running down these different tangents and people just start talking about random things, the whole thing grinds to a halt. It becomes boring and useless. As the leader, I spend a lot of energy doing just this. So I spend a lot of time saying, George, you may get off on some tangent about whatever, and it may be like a business thing somewhat related to what we're talking about. But I have to say, hey, George, that's a really good point. Why don't we write that down and come back to that at a separate time? I use that line over and over and over in meetings to get us back on track to focus on the core purpose of the meeting. And so, man, I spend a lot of time keeping us on track. The third thing I'd say is, hey, the meeting has to end where the business is better off than when it started that meeting. If you're going to dedicate an hour to getting people together, that's a lot of payroll. That's expensive. And if you don't actually leave that meeting with the business in a better place, then you wasted your time. And so there's a lot of ways you have to fight that and be intentional with that. And so some of it is prep work. Some of it is being intentional during the meeting. Oftentimes, a third thing, though, is when you wrap the meeting, assign clear action items so that people have marching orders of what they're going to do after the meeting ends. And then you as the leader hold them accountable to finishing and following through on those.
And that's my favorite part of a meeting is where we walk away and everyone knows exactly what to do. It wasn't just, well, we all got to hang out with each other for a half hour. Glad we did that. And a lot of the times meetings don't need to take place. And so we talked about the importance of an all-team meeting, but a lot of times you just get a meeting on the calendar and you go, well, that could have been an email. So at what point do you decide, or how do you decide if something should be a meeting, or, you know what, I'm just going to send an email, send a text, that kind of thing?
Man, gosh, that's hard. I do that all the time. So, for example, I have one-on-ones. One of the meeting habits I have is I have a one-on-one with all of my direct reports every single week. It's just 30 minutes. In a regular week, I may have several things I want to talk to you about. Like, let's say you're one of my direct reports. I may have a list of 5 things. I know we're probably only going to have time to get to 2 of them. So I'm going to decide which one's an email, which one isn't urgent, but it's important, and I'm going to save time for our next one-on-one the following week. Or maybe it's urgent and important, and I schedule a new meeting that's not already on the regular rhythm to just tackle that one. So I'm always discerning that, always trying to figure that out. Oftentimes, too, problems need to involve more people. Problems, you need to collaborate with people. More often than not, I see too many people in a meeting. I think it's really good, even though you want to include all the people and make them feel like part of it, I think it's really healthy and good to have the fewest number of people necessary to accurately or strongly tackle that issue. And so while you could have 20 people because they all somewhat touch it, have the 5 or 4 or 3 right people, and then communicate well to the other people who are more loosely involved.